Good evening. Welcome to Savva Talks Football. This is the World Cup preview. I'm joined by two unsavoury characters. One is a darts wannabe. The other one is a new dad and a gooner. I mean, it's all happening on this show. Boys,
that could be either of us. That literally could be either of us. Our kids are a day
Well, you've only got the one. You've only got the one.
I'm aware of. I'm aware of. But no. Pleasure to be here, Sam.
Yeah, that is one of my legitimate biggest fears in life is that there's going to be a knock on the door. It's just going to be some random teenager. Are you my dad?
Good. So, I mean, listen, you are a bit of a Lothario, so it could happen.
Not anymore.
We never know. Never know. Big up to anybody in the chat, especially this is the best one. Soccer, thank you. Smash the like button, my friend. Smash the like button. Smash it again and smash it again. And we've started early.
Don't block him. Keep him in. I want to see what else.
I'm going to. It's all right. He doesn't realise he makes me money by being in here. Tell me something I don't know. It's all good. Boys, we are going to talk about the World Cup tonight. It's it's around the corner. It's 5 days away, 4 days away, depending on
Sunday.
Let's start off before we talk about the teams that are going to win it, before we talk about players that are going to excel in the competition. What difference do you think it's going to make, guys, having the World Cup mid-season and in Qatar? Who does it affect? Is this thing going to have knock-on effects? So excuses for why people haven't played well, why they've not won, injuries. What do you make of it? Let me start with you, Gav. What do you think of it?
Originally, I was like, yeah, this is going to favour the teams that play in higher climates and that. But after listening to Faye Carruthers earlier on today, she was saying that she might actually have to do part of her pre-match analysis in a coat because of the air conditioning inside the actual ground. So I'm thinking it's probably going to favour the teams that play in colder climates at this time of year, i.e., the north, like France, England, the European side. So I reckon it will be a European side that will win it now. I knew all about the aircon thing, but I didn't realise how deep it was actually going to be. But some of the games are going to be kicking off. It's going to be around 35 to 40 degrees outside, but inside the stadium is going to be anywhere between sort of 15 and 18 degrees. So I know I'm going to sound like a meteorologist right now, but I think it will favour the teams that will be playing in this sort of temperature around this time of year.
And other than the temperature, other than that, Gav, I mean, the fact that it's the middle of the season, does this affect the players? Because normally they get to the end of the year, they then go and join their clubs. They've got a few months knowing that this is the World Cup, then they've got a holiday. This time they've got the World Cup knowing they come straight back. They're straight back into Premier League or Serie A or La Liga action, whatever it may be. Does that affect the mindset of the players, or is it get there, nothing else matters but the World Cup?
Yeah. Mentality-wise, they should be ready for it. They should be up for it. But I think as we've seen a few times already in the last couple of weeks, some teams, some players haven't really been putting much effort in. Some have gone overboard and got themselves a bit injured, things like that as well. So I think the players will have elements. Some of the players will have elements like the fans do right now. It doesn't feel like it's quite right. Everyone's meeting up with their pals and stuff, and they haven't got enough time to gel and be up for it. So yeah, I think the first couple of games that we'll see of each team is probably going to be a struggle. I'll say this, it's going to get clips now, and we're going to see like the most amount of goals ever in the first two match days of the World Cup.
But to be fair, the first match day is usually a bit, no one really wants to drop a point in that first game. Everyone's a bit touchy. So the first game usually is a bit nervy. But I think it's going to be strange one because, as Savva alluded to, you're coming into this. Usually, you've got a holiday at the end of this. Players who play in the Premier League, especially, which is the vast majority of the England squad, as soon as this tournament's over, some of them will be playing 2 days later. Their clubs will anyway in the Carabao Cup, or 4 or 5 days later when the Premier League comes back. So there's no real let up. They've not really had a break before the World Cup. They go straight into the World Cup. straight off the back of that back into the league season. So burnout is a real question for some players. So it's a strange one, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see how it does differentiate from the other World Cups we've seen.
I mean, one of the things, just quickly before we go on to that, I've got a super chat from Borodin. Thank you so much. That's much appreciated. He said, thanks for your support this week. Mate, don't worry about it. It's cool. We won't talk about what that was, but for somebody that built this channel upon using people, you're welcome for my support this week. And you're a good guy, so keep it up. Guys, one of the key things to look at as well is normally if a player is injured coming up to the end of the season, the World Cup then doesn't start for 3 or 4 weeks, right, till after the Premier League or whatever league season has finished. This year, it's very different, right? This year, if you're injured right now, you've got no recovery time. You're straight into the World Cup. Is that putting clubs, countries at a disadvantage, i.e., someone like France, they seem to be racking up injuries at the moment. Players like Kante, players like Pogba, I think Nkunku yesterday, who I'm gutted that he's injured because I think everyone wants to see Nkunku play. He's a class act. Is that just one of them, it is what it is situations, we're all in the same boat, no excuses? Or is this really going to damage some teams' chances of winning the tournament?
I think of players like Mane, who went down injured and has been called up, and they're going to try and get him fit in time for the tournament. I imagine in a regular World Cup, someone like him would have benefited from having a few weeks to actually rest that injury and then you play the little pre-World Cup friendlies, you get yourself back into match fitness. But he's going to be 50-50 going into the World Cup. They're going to have to play him because he's so integral to it. He could break down again. Son. Obviously, Son's injury is slightly different. You can protect that with, mask or whatever else. But there's players who will risk it for the World Cup and could damage themselves even further. There's quite a few countries, and I'm sure we'll go through it. There's quite a few countries where their talisman or important players are coming into this tournament banged up, and it's just fingers crossed we could get them fit in time.
If you look, I mean, Christian Romero's another one who miraculously trained at the weekend for Argentina after missing 3 or 4 really important games for Spurs. You've got Heung-min Son is another one. Reece James has come out and said, hang on, I was willing to go, and they wouldn't take it. Gav, who are the injuries hitting the hardest at the moment? I've seen a few with England in terms of Reece James, Ben Chilwell. France seems to have 3 or 4. I'm not sure if you know of any for any other countries.
No, France was the one that I was going to go to more than anything else because their midfield has been decimated. To be honest, I've got their squad here, and they've only got 5 midfielders in the team, and it's Guendouzi, Tchouaméni, Rabiot, Veretout, and Camavinga. And I look at that, and don't get me wrong, like there's names that we all know. There's players that are playing in the Premier League in the shape of Veretout and Guendouzi as well. But is that France? Are they going to be overly reliant on that front line? I think they might have to be. I think they're all good players, but are they good enough to defend their title at the World Cup? I don't think they are. And every year since 2010, is it? Like the team, I think it's only Brazil actually, thinking about it, that have been able to progress past the first round, having won the title the year before in the last 20 odd years, the last 5 or 6 tournaments. So I think France might find themselves struggling a little bit. And even if you go back to the Euros, they weren't overly that great in the group stage, were they? Got the draw against Hungary off the top of my head, and got dumped out of the competition by Switzerland. So I think France will be the ones that struggle the most with the injuries. I think everyone else, they've got injuries, but not key men that will make you a little bit concerned.
Yeah, it's the names you listed off, some very good players in there. If we look at especially the 2 Real Madrid boys, right, in Camavinga and Tchouaméni. But as you say, it's a difference when you're playing alongside Modric and Kroos every week to hang on, we're the main men now in a World Cup, playing every 2-3 days.
Well, that's the thing. You just said it there, Savva. Playing against them every week, but they're not, are they? They're not playing every game. They're not starting every game for Real Madrid. So even if they were, then I'll probably feel a little bit more confident in what France can do. But because they're not, how are they expected to then carry the weight of the country on their shoulders? I don't think they've got it in them.
Well, let's start by. I want to start by talking about the two favourites for the World Cup. And the two favourites with the bookies at the moment are the two South American giants, Brazil and Argentina. Look, this is being billed, isn't it? Social media at its best. This is being billed as Messi signing out from international football, ending his career, finally winning that World Cup that puts to bed all these kind of niggles of, he's one of the best ever, but he would be the best ever if he won a World Cup. So let's start with Argentina. They've not lost in what feels like forever. They've not lost in something like 3.5 years. They don't concede goals. I think they had that spell where they went 11, 12 games without conceding a goal.
Yeah.
You've got Lionel Messi in form. You've got so many talented players within that squad. Can you boys see Argentina? I mean, we'll look at their group first of all. They've got a group with Poland, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. I mean, first of all, do you see them getting out the group? Second of all, do you see them winning it?
Yes, on both of those, yes. Firstly, I think whenever the tournament's not in Europe, the South American teams tend to do better. So they have that kind of historical advantage. The group is not the strongest when you look at some of the other groups. You look at Spain and Germany group. France's group is tough. You look at the groups that probably will come to England, and they will be amongst the bookies' favourites because we're in England. Their group is piss poor, if we're honest, compared to some of the other groups. And Argentina, I would say, is in the same bracket. That group, they should really progress from that without being too challenged. I think you alluded to it before. They're unbeaten. I think it's a couple more games and they may take the record for the longest unbeaten streak in international football. Messi's firing on all cylinders this season. And yes, it is a fairy tale story, but if they do make it to the final, that's his 1,000th game in football. It's written. It's almost like we're just awaiting for it to happen. But football can be cruel, so I wouldn't necessarily,
Let me ask you off the back of that, Devo. Does Lionel Messi deserve? Look at the. I mean, he's been playing since he was 16, 17 in the Barcelona first team. He's now 35, so he's given us and I say given us, I'm talking football fans. He's given all of us just complete enjoyment over the last 20 years. He's been described as a PlayStation footballer by everybody and anybody. Does he deserve a World Cup to add to that CV? And if he wins it, can there be any doubt, Devo, that this is the greatest we've ever seen?
No, I don't think there can be any doubt. For me personally, he's the greatest I've ever seen anyway. For me, I think the World Cup argument is a bit flawed. I think there's so many intangibles that go into it. I think everyone says it's the pinnacle of world football. It is, but the Champions League is where you come up against the best week in, week out. Because there's players that can't make the World Cup. The likes of, Shevchenko, these guys who never really had a chance, Haaland, these guys are never really going to have a chance to win that trophy. You come up against the best in the Champions League, and Messi has been the best Champions League player, bar Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's a fact. So for me, if he cements his legacy with a World Cup win, there can be absolutely no doubt as to who's the greatest player of all time for those who like to nitpick.
I just feel like it always has to be done on trophies, not the actual individual appearances, because let's be real, right? Who's a better defender? All right, we'll ask this question now. Nemanja Vidic or Wes Brown?
I know where you're going with this.
So there you go. It's not always about having to have a trophy.
Wes Brown was a good defender.
Wes Brown, yeah, he's a good defender, but
Listen,
he weren't the greatest. Let's be honest.
I get that in general, Gav, that whole debate. I get it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, that's like saying how many strikers have won the Premier League that are never going to be as good or not as good as Harry Kane, who's never going to win the Premier League. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how people like use that as a yardstick nowadays. Harry Kane will never be good until he wins a trophy. Well, he's done everything he needs to do anyway as an individial. The guy's a machine, even though he's cheating. Anyway, but like as you were saying about Argentina, I think this group is relatively straightforward. I don't think it's as easy as everybody makes out. I think.
But you mean that guy down there?
Yeah, no. Everybody.
It's an easy group.
Mexico love to perform in World Cup competitions. They majority of the time get out the group. So are they going to? What are they going to do to Argentina? They could. This is the first. However, this is the first time in my lifetime that I've actually seen Argentina with a decent back four. All the years that we always say Argentina are going to win it this year. Argentina are going to win this year. So who they got in defence? They'll have like one good defender and three average ones, or two good defenders and two average ones. Very much like how Liverpool were for many, many years. It's like this Liverpool's time. So yeah, we haven't got a decent back four. The time when they actually finally got a decent back four, they went on to win a title. So then I just feel like this, with those things in mind, we know what they've got in midfield. They've got creativity. They've also got people that can chop man up. Like they've got De Paul in midfield. He's gonna just be eating people. Who else they got? Palacios, yeah, exactly. And then we all know who they got up top as well. And they got options as well. They can do many different things. Nico Gonzalez from the Bundesliga, now at Fiorentina, someone who I loved when he was at Stuttgart. Julian Alvarez, Carrera, Dybala's coming into a bit of form again now. He's gone to Roma. He's 29, by the way. He turned 29 yesterday. Can you believe that?
He's another one who come into this with an injury. He's not played since September or early October. I think.
But he was coming into form before that moment. Do you see what I mean? So whether he was bagging or creating or being part of the build-up play, he was able to do those things. So and from where he was last season, it's like, I don't know, is he going to be? Is he going to be that guy anymore? And of course, they've got Lautaro Martinez as well, who's an absolute baller. So this is probably the most complete Argentina side that I've seen in my lifetime. I know you, man, are a little bit older than me, but still.
Yeah. No, for me, the difference is that they don't have all these superstars and prima donnas. They have a team of solid, consistent players, all of which across the board, as you said, not just in certain positions, across the board, they've got consistently solid players playing for some of the best clubs in Europe, week in, week out. Whereas before, you had Di Maria, you had Higuain, you had Aguero, you had all these names at one end of the pitch, and then, as you said, at the other end, nothing really.
So Devo, you said you can see them winning it. Gav, have you got them down to win it, or
the whole thing?
The whole thing?
No, I don't think they'll win the whole thing. No, it'd be like the best movie ever written if they did. But I think they will fall short, and unfortunately, I don't see how it's going to happen for them. But could be pretty.
Let's move on then. Before we talk about individual players, let's move on to their South American counterparts, who I believe these two, from what I was looking at earlier, I believe these two can't meet in the final. I believe that they can meet at the semis, but not the final, which is a shame, because I think a lot of people would probably have liked to have seen that. Brazil have got a group which is, for me, not straightforward at all. Although they're one of the tournament favourites, they've got Serbia, who are many people's dark horses, Switzerland, who are a very solid team.
My dark horses every time.
And you what, sorry?
Switzerland, they're always my dark horses.
I mean, the thing is, I was saying earlier, I think when we use the term dark horse, right, I don't ever use it in the term of, like, because I've said Serbia are my dark horse this tournament. That doesn't mean I think they'll win it. I just think they'll do well, because do you know what I mean? How often does a team that's not meant to win the World Cup win the World Cup? I mean, who was the last one that you can think of that won it?
Argue France in '98, but they had the home crowd behind them.
Yeah.
And they players like Zinedine
Cream
Zidane,
riders to the
Christian
top.
Carrot. Look, but do you know what I mean? There's never normally someone that, not like in the Euros where Greece have done it and Denmark did it. So guys, I mean, that group of Brazils, I don't think that's going to be as straightforward as people think, but I do think they'll come through it. What do you guys make of it?
It's a horrid group. This is the actual group of death. You know, people will say might even try and put Group E in it. We will talk about later on with Spain and Germany. Costa Rica, I think they're going to get battered by everybody. In this group, I can't see anyone getting torn apart, battered. Conditions wise, I think the hotter it is, then Cameroon and Brazil will better from it. The cooler it is, with a lot of the Cameroonians still playing in Europe, and a lot of the Brazilians playing in Europe, then they can benefit from it as well. But then Serbia and Switzerland might then think, oh well, the conditions are favouring us right now. Serbia, I think I want them to be dark horses, but I think they'll fall short, if I'm honest.
Do you think they'll get out of the group, Gav?
No, I think Switzerland will. I genuinely do believe that. Switzerland...
I mean,
this is the tough one.
Look at Serbia. They've got, their two centre forwards are Vlahovic and Mitrovic. They've got Dusan Tadic, Milenkovic Savic. They've got Milenkovic at the back. They've got some players in there, haven't they? I'd take all
Serbia's squad. The Serbia squad is strong. I agree with you as a dark horse, but the problem is, my cat's attacking me. Get off
I can see, looks like he's having fun.
Yeah. So, it's a strong squad, a really strong squad. And if they were in a different group, I would also think fancy them as dark horses. But I think Switzerland are so good at being hard to beat. They're one of the most organised teams in world football. Always there and thereabouts. Always get out of their groups. They're always in tough groups. Generally get out of it. And Cameroon, as we saw in the African Cup of Nations, are not a bad footballing side. They've got firepower themselves. They looked really strong in the African Cup of Nations. They will fancy themselves against anyone in Cameroon. So I think this is a really tough group. And I think Brazil cannot come into this tournament thinking about winning it without, putting 100% concentration behind this group, because we've seen it before. We saw it look at France, where they in 2002, where they thought, all we have to do is turn up, got turned over by Senegal.
Was that
Pat Bouba Diop.
Was that the rise to stardom of El Hadj Diouf?
Yes,
it was indeed.
That was El Hadj Diouf Cup.
And he got his move to Liverpool. Right?
He did, Wow. And Salif Diao.
Salif Diao, midfield. Yeah.
So look? We all know what. We'll talk about Brazil in a second. We all know what they've got, what Serbia have got. I think everyone knows the Switzerland squad. It doesn't seem to change ever. What have Cameroon got then that people should be worried about? You were talking about their firepower there. What have they got that's going to be surprise people that maybe don't know a lot about Cameroon?
So Abubakar is their main talisman. He's a captain. I think he got 11 goals in the African Cup of Nations. Wow. He's been around Europe, Porto. He had a good spell at Porto, good spell in Turkey as well, I believe. So he's their main talisman. But you have Toko Akambi as well at Lyon, who had 5 goals and I think the same amount of assists in the African Cup of Nations. Mbuemo has changed allegiance. He's now playing for Cameroon, so he's obviously Brentford winger. He's had a good season with Brentford.
And the Ballon d'Or elect, of course.
Yeah.
Do not forget.
Oh, Choupo-Moting, of course. Choupo-Moting, I'm grateful. Yeah. But they got Zambo and
Don't worry, kids in the chat. Don't start fighting.
Great season at Napoli in central mid. So he'll look to bring that form in as well. Bit of a box-to-box midfielder, do a bit of everything in there. Flopped at Fulham somehow. It's gone to Napoli and is absolutely smashing it. So they've got some really good players. And obviously in goal, Andre Anana. They've got some really good players across the board there, Cameroon. They could surprise a few people.
So look, 2 good teams are going to go out that group. But look, let's talk about Brazil. When you look at their squad from, again, we were talking about, Gav, you said about the Argentinian squad being complete from not just the names up front, but in terms of in the back and in midfield. I mean, looking at Brazil, just a selection of players, the forwards that they've left at home. And then the forwards they've taken, they've got Jesus in there, Richarlison, Martinelli, Anthony, Rafinha. Then you look, they've got players like Paqueta, Guimaraes, Casemiro. I'm sure I'm missing loads, but then at the back they've got, they've got so many established, international defenders. Is this
Gabriel? I know Gabriel from Arsenal in the back, who's had a brilliant season so far.
I'm happy with that.
That's how stacked Brazil are in defence as well. That's someone who is doing very well and arguably on top of his game can't get into this side. Bobby Firmino not going, I think, is wild. But everyone's like, oh yeah, but he doesn't perform for Brazil. What do you mean he doesn't perform? He's not like he's a forward that isn't there to score goals. Is there to bring other people in. I would like to see Bobby Firmino laying the ball off to the likes of Neymar. I want to see that, and also want to see this as Neymar's opportunity to stand up and say, I need to be in the conversation for Ballon d'Or. People, we all know what he can do in talent-wise and stuff. We also see a bit of petulance behind him in that. This is the time now for him to step up, be the nation's darling, because in Brazil they'll love him, don't they? And just take the competition by the scruff of the neck and be like, right, this is me now. That's what I want to be able to see. But this has to be done from day one, because as you guys mentioned already, this group is disgusting.
Can I just say, I'm absolutely disgusted in myself right now, because a selection of players that I have just not mentioned in the Brazil midfield and forward line. I'm disgusted. I shouldn't ever talk about football ever again. Someone called Vinicius Junior. There's a bloke called Neymar as well. Fabinho. And then when you look at the back, they've got players like Militao, Bremer, Telles, Sandro, Danilo, Marquinhos. Dani Alves is still going at the age of 406. Thiago Silva is 405. Guys, look, last bit on Brazil. Is this going to be one of those countries where they've got too many players and therefore don't know their best 11? Or do you think this is the Brazil now that we could go back to when Devo, we're roughly the same age, when we were growing up, Brazil was, everyone loved watching Brazil.
Oh yeah.
They were so entertaining. Oh, which one are we going to get? Are we going to get Brazil that are flat to the sea for years and years, or a star-studded squad that could actually come out and retain that World Cup?
You know what I like about this Brazil squad is they've got a mixture of everything. They've got a balance. They've got a solid unit with Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, and Militao. They've got protection in midfield, Casemiro and Fabinho, Casemiro and Fred, whoever they prefer to go with. And then they just allow their attacking quartet to do what they need to do. And I think that is the difference. Whereas for a few years, we saw Brazil made up of individuals, no real cohesion in the team. They've got that now. They do entertain, but they are solid at the back, so you're not really going to expect them to be fully open. They kind of do play a little bit more European than they used to in the European kind of style, but they still have that kind of flair that makes them Brazilian, and like Neymar and Vinicius and those guys. So I do think the only area that I think might be a weakness is their fullback positions. I'm not a big fan of Alexandro. I think Telles has struggled. As you said, Dani Alves is 40. He's actually coming up to 40. I think he's 39. And Danilo, to be honest, never been a big fan of Danilo. So I think that's the only real area I could see any sort of weakness in this Brazilian squad.
Yeah. Devo, do you reckon we've just been spoiled by having like Roberto Carlos and Cafu though? That's what I mean. Like when you've got that, it's
even after that, they had Maicon. Maicon was a brilliant right back as well. So yeah, they've had good fullbacks in their time.
I mean, but when you look at it as well, I mean, Dani Alves is the most decorated footballer of all time. So I understand why he's in there for experience. I can imagine that he's excellent around the dressing room. But I would also guess that it doesn't matter who you are at that age. If he comes up against competent, quick wingers, I guess he'll be happy he's not coming up against Vinicius Junior, for example.
But since he's gone back home, he's been actually playing quite a lot of midfield. So
really? He was playing central midfield. Yeah, he's in Mexico now. He plays with Pumas in Mexico.
Wow.
So I don't know if he's playing in midfield or defense now.
I didn't know he moved again because I know he went back to Brazil, and he was playing like he got given the number 10 shirt, and everyone started kicking off. I was like I started kicking off. I was thinking a right back wearing number 10. Are you mad?
The whole of the internet just got mad.
Oh mate, honestly, yeah, it's just me, innit? But then watching him just do bits in the middle of the park, just like controlling things at that age, I'm thinking, all right, what is football? It doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, it's mad.
I mean, look, guys, I think we all know that they got a chance of winning it, of course. But look, let's move away from the South Americans. Let's go European here. Let's start with that country that don't win anything ever, and that we've probably all got a strong interest in England.
Belgium. Oh,
Belgium. Them as well. Look, let's look at England, guys. This is, England are a nation coming off the back of a semi-final at the World Cup, which many, including myself, said, yeah, you can only beat who you beat, but they didn't beat anyone of any significance, managed to get to the semi-final and then were outplayed by Croatia. Got to the final of the Euros. There's something I feel like most England fans should be, with the players we've got, the squad we've got, with the momentum from the last two tournaments. I feel like we should be more upbeat about them than I am hearing from lots of fans. But even myself, I'm looking at it going, there's something not right there. What is it, or do you two disagree? Why am I not thinking England are in with a shout of winning?
I agree 100%. And I think what it is no wins in the last 6 games. Not finding the back of the net. He's too pragmatic. I think we have some of the best attacking talent in the world. And he's not unleashing them. He wants them to play in this system that's so defensive, 3 at the back, 2 defensive mids, and then you're stifling players. I think if he lets them off the leash, back 4 has to be a back 4. We haven't got any left backs, so let alone left wing backs. If he's playing Saka at left wing back, sack him at halftime in the first game. Because for me, Saka's tearing the league up as a right-sided attacking player. Yeah, you're playing at left wing back. What are you thinking?
He'll play Trippier surely, won't he?
He has played Saka at left wing back quite a bit in recent fixtures. If he goes for a back 4, Luke Shaw gets in by default. For me, I think Kieran Trippier has probably been the best English right back this season. So he should start a right back for me. But
that tells you he won't because it's Southgate.
He won't. But all of these things make me think that England will disappoint in this tournament. I think the group is easy on paper. The Welsh are going to be up for it. That's going to be a dogfight. We need to show that we can fight in that. The USA, decent going forward. They've got some good players. I think they will just say, look, have the ball. Let's see what you can do. We'll try and catch you on the counter-attack, which can be dangerous. But if we get through the group and we come up against the likes of Portugal, Brazil, Argentina, we haven't got a chance. Not with the way we've been playing in the last 6 games.
I think everyone's just expecting too much. That England are just going to walk this group, and I agree. I don't see it. I really don't see it. As you mentioned, Wales, they'll be up for it. Wales,
and that's the last group game.
Say again.
Wales is the last group game.
Exactly. That could define who's going to be.
Where whoever wins that last group game goes through.
Goes through. Whoa, I don't know about goes through. I can see USA doing bits. I do think USA are just a tournament too short, though.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of talent coming through at US right now, and I just think they've played some really good football over the last couple of years and stuff, but I think there's just a tournament too short for them. Looking forward to seeing Tyler Adams and Brandon Aronson in the middle of the park doing bits and bobs.
Good player, very good player.
Yeah, and then Iran. I do think Iran are going to be relatively walkovers. I think they're just going to be disgusting to try and break down. I wouldn't be surprised if that game finished like 1-1 between England and Iran, and it would just be like some really crap penalty that England give away. Harry Maguire more than likely, and then
we'll talk about him in a minute. Don't worry, that's on the agenda.
And then I don't know, some mad like deflected goal of Harry Kane, or You know, I can't see England turning up to that game and being like, whoa. I mean, if you look over the history of England in the opening games of World Cups as well, they've been awful most of the time, haven't they? And it's just like,
I mean, I said to one of my mates today, I said to him, what annoys me about England is there's so much talent, like Devo said, there's so much talent in that squad. I'd just love to see us go out there, play a 4-2-3-1, right? And have Bellingham and Rice as your two. I think that's a great blend. I'd then like to see Saka off the right, Foden off the left, James Maddison in the hole, and Kane up top.
that would
And
be beautiful.
I just look at that and go, mwah, like just
It picks
attacking.
itself, Savva. It picks itself. It's right there.
Even Grealish could play off one of the bits, you know, or Sterling. But my point is,
Mount at 10, you've got options.
right, you've
there.
got. But what he'll do, if you know it, the Fodens, the Maddisons, these players, the ones that can open teams up, they'll be the ones that get rotated. They'll be the ones that aren't trusted. They'll be the ones that come on to try and rescue a game. And I just think if we had a more positive, forward-thinking manager, I mean, Bellingham and Rice, I mean, two very athletic, I mean, they're very different players, but athletic, great engines. Bellingham's more your go forward guy. Rice is your mop up and do all the doggy work. I just don't get it. I don't get why we're so pragmatic. And that's the reason why I don't think we will win it. I think we'll probably run Harry Kane into the ground like every Spurs and England manager has done for the last decade. I don't think we'll change it up enough when we need to. And for me, Southgate just doesn't go on the front foot enough. But what I want to talk about, other than that, we know the attacking options we've got, boys. I want to talk about the back line. Right? England, you know, growing up, I've always seen England have solid centre halves. Even if I go back to when we had Carragher, King, Terry and Ferdinand all in the same squad. I'm looking at it now and I'm seeing players coming through like Tomori, like Guehi, like Tarkowski, right? Like Dunk. These players that can't get in the England team over Maguire and Dyer. What on earth is the thinking here, lads? How have these two made an England squad for a World Cup? They are both awful.
There's reason, and when you have your trusted people, your trusted players, you don't want to divert from it. Can we think of many mistakes that Harry Maguire's made in an England shirt? Not that many. More so in the last couple of games, but then like he's been left, you know, like quite wide open a couple of times. There's one against Germany where he's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he did that." But it's like, where was the cover? Why was he the person that had to go and make that decision? You know, so where was the midfield? The midfield needed to do a little bit more in order to stop from Harry Maguire from making that mistake. Look at the goalkeeper, Nick Pope, unbelievable goalkeeper. Has been brilliant for ages, by the way, even when he was at Burnley. And now he is arguably the most informed goalkeeper in the Premier League. I would rather play Pope than Ramsdale. But then if you were going to play Ramsdale, you've got someone who's got the shot stopping ability as well as the distribution, as well as the presence and like commanding your box. Pickford doesn't have all three of those, but once again, for England, has he ever let England down? Has he? I can't.
How long can
I
you
think
go
one
on?
time he dropped it, but there was no one else around him, so he was fine. No mistakes.
But we're not talking about. Listen, I would get it if Maguire was even starting for his club, right? If you're starting for your club, not having a good time, and then the England manager says, "All right, I'm going to back him. He's had a difficult time," but this has been now, as far as I can remember, this has been nearly 2 years now of either being shocking or not being picked. You've got English players like whenever I watch Tarkowski, right?
I love Tarky.
The solid defender, you know, no frills, you know, just a solid defender. Why has he not gone? Why is Dunk not gone? Why Tomori and Gray?
Never had a look in. The Tomori thing really upset me because Gareth Southgate once upon a time said, I will pick players based on their form. That's what he said. Tomori got one cap when it was talked about that he may be picked by Nigeria. He got one cap. He's never been capped since. For me, that was a political move. It's like, just in case we do ever want you in future, let's take you off the grid. And I feel he deserved to go to the World Cup based on his form. He's gone across to Italy, not an easy place to go. He's become a bit of a cult hero for AC Milan, won league, had 2 poor games against Chelsea in the Champions League, and everyone seems to have made up their mind that he's crap. For me, I understand why Maguire's in the squad, because as we spoke about, that's a big one as well. Dan Burn has been brilliant.
Dan Burn's been excellent.
Gives you 2 different positions as well. So for me, I think Dan Burn is unlucky. I think Tyreek Mitchell is also unlucky not to go, because we don't have a left back apart from Luke Shaw. But for me, I understand Maguire going because he has done well for Southgate in the past. He's not really put a foot wrong for England. Dyer, he was out of the England squad for a while. I think this season he's not been great. So I do not understand
last season he played.
Last season he was
good.
Who did? But he didn't get a call up last season. Eric Dyer. He was left out of the squad last season.
I thought was decent last season. I can't deny that.
I can't.
He was. He didn't get a look in for England last season.
Eric Dyer,
he was left out.
He's the king of mistakes, and he's the king of throwing his arms about and looking at everyone else when a goal goes in. He can't head a ball. He turns his back every time someone goes to shoot. He gets turned inside out. His positioning is awful. But look, like I agree with you, Devon. When you look at someone like Dan Burn, again, not a household name, I suppose. Like, it's weird to say that for a Premier League footballer, but not a kind of sexy name. But he's part of the best defence in the country, right? He plays left back where we've got problems, and he plays centre back. He
plays left-sided centre back if you're playing a back 3 as well.
Exactly.
So he's perfect for the role.
But I just don't understand where we're going. Just quickly before we carry on with that, Chike, good to see you, my man. Listen, thank you so much. There's a very generous super chat there. He said, "Why is it that fans, when it comes to international football, you're allowed to root for Argentina, and I'm American, right? But when it comes to club football, you have to blindly back a process that may or may not even be good." Listen, what I would say, Chike, is I guess I think it's changed a little bit lately. In years gone by, I reckon if I had come on there and said I'd love to see Argentina win the World Cup, I'd have a million people breathing down my neck as to, oh my God, why don't you want England to win it? But I feel like football has kind of evolved from that, and I feel like a lot of people aren't as into international football as they used to be. But listen, thank you so much for the super chat. That's very, very generous of you.
Can I just throw a name out there quickly of a defender that I think should have at least been considered, and people may laugh, but Chris Smalling. Chris Smalling.
Tim Sherwood said that.
Agreed.
Since he's been at Roma, he has been fantastic. Last season won a European trophy, whether you like it or not. The Europa Conference is a European trophy. Roma are doing really well this season, defensively looking solid. And who's in the middle of the back line? Chris Smalling. He's an older head as well, got the experience. He's playing in Europe right now, playing against different types of defenders. I think he's someone who I believe could have also been in that squad, and it's just been completely overlooked. He has no intention of looking in Italy. Honestly, Harry Kane goes to Italy. Harry Kane never gets picked for England again. Trust me. Whilst Southgate.
it just listen. I don't think that is a chat at all. I said it the other day. Chris Smalling for me is when I watch Roma, they're very well organised. I think Roma struggles; they don't score enough goals, but they're very well organised. He plays in the centre with Ibanez and normally Mancini the other side of him, and he wins everything in the air. He looks solid. He offers a goal threat as well. I've seen him offer a goal threat a lot. I think a lot of people could consider themselves unlucky. And let's be fair, if you're Harry Maguire, I think you're sitting there thinking you are the luckiest man alive to be going to this tournament. Last question on England. Do you expect Maguire to start?
Yes.
Yeah, the reason being Stones and Maguire were a decent partnership for Southgate in the last 2 tournaments. They look solid. I feel like he will go to the tried and trusted, and he will start with those 2.
Is this the sort of decision, though, that if Maguire makes a couple of mistakes in the group and we don't get out of it, I'm just throwing hypotheticals, This is the sort of decision that gets a manager sacked.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Having
we've come into this tournament. We haven't won a game in 6. If we go out of this group stage, he's gone.
And before those 6 games, Devo, England were touted as joint favourites for this competition.
Yeah. It's mad. Just quickly, yes or no? Do you guys see any situation in which England win it?
The group?
No, the whole thing.
It's tournament football.
If Lasagna Gate comes into power for the other 31 nations.
Yeah, Lasagna Gate. Look, let's move away from England then. Let's move to something that you guys know a lot about. You do a show on this. Let's look at the Germans. Obviously, you've got your Bundesliga show that you do. Germany, for me, are an interesting one. Somebody said to me, and lots of people are saying it in the chat, don't write off the Germans. Other people are saying Germany are going to flop. When I've been watching Germany recently, since the Euros, when I think England knocked them out, right? When I've been watching Germany, it feels like they're going for a rebuild, but it feels like they've still got enough of the kind of old experienced heads in there, the likes of Thomas Müller, right? But they're bringing through the Musialas, the Schlotterbacks. I'm sure you guys know some more, but have they got the right blend? Is this a World Cup too soon for Germany, or do you see them as a team that could do some damage in this tournament?
I put a tenner on them a few months back to win the whole thing. This was not based on anything other than a hunch, but for me, we spoke about this on our show. You're not going to find the midfield more packed than the Germans' midfield. When you look at the names they could put in that midfield, Kimmich, Goretzka, Gundogan, Musiala,
Jonas
Hoffmann, Muller, and then you think of the wide players, Gnabry, Sane, they've got some real talent in the midfield. Wow. I think the area where they may struggle is through the middle, up front. I think
who are they
haven't really got to recognise. Havertz has been there. They kind of play a false 9 with Gnabry through the middle, and Muller maybe dropping deep. But for me, I think they should just give the reins to Moukoko. I think he's 17 years old. Someone put in the chat there about Pele making a name for himself. I'm not saying this kid's as good as Pele, but we've seen Michael Owen make a name for himself at a World Cup. We've seen, Ronaldo burst onto the scene at a World Cup, albeit obviously, the Ballon d'Or by then. But young strikers who have kind of taken the tournament by the scruff of its neck. I think Moukoko, who's given the chance, could be that guy for Germany. I really do. But I expect Germany, tough group to get out of. I think Spain, no one's talking about Spain, but they're a good side. Yeah.
Is it tough? Most people would look at that and go, Spain, Germany, Spain, one way or the other, right? I know that's probably...
Don't write off the Japanese.
Don't write off Japan.
Do not write off the Japanese. I think the Japanese are a very good technical side. They've got some really good players.
Got a man like Endo in there. They've got Kamada. These are men.
Is that Kamada from Frankfurt?
Yeah. They've got some really good players. Ritsu Doran is an absolute baller. I think they've got some really good players in there. And they.
But let me ask you, Devo, are you expecting it? I know you're saying don't write them off, and I won't. I promise. Mm-hmm. But are you expecting it to be a Spain-Germany 1-2 in one way or another?
I am indeed. I am expecting it to be a Germany-Spain 1-2, but I would not be surprised if Japan picked one of them to that second place. I would not be surprised at all.
I'm in agreement.
I think they have enough about
massively. Yeah. I think Spain are in trouble. Personally,
interesting.
Let me just talk about Germany for a minute because I love Germany.
Yeah, we'll come on to Spain in a minute, mate. We'll come on to Spain in a minute.
You see, like what Devo when Devo was talking about Youssef and Moukoko, I just stood there and just listened because all the hairs were raised on the back of my neck. The guy is a machine. He made his debut for Dortmund a day after his 16th birthday and just looked sharp straight away. Maybe it was a little bit too soon in terms of his physical being, but over the last year and a half, nearly 2 years, he has turned into a mini superstar, scoring all types of goals. I don't know if you saw a couple of weeks ago in a 3-0 win that they had. You know, he scored and he's absolutely laced one from about 25 yards, a complete golazzo. And then the next one in the same game, moments later, really and truly, he's effectively made the keeper make a decision and he smashed it from like 45 yards. You know, and I'm just like, how have you got the mental awareness to do that and you're not even 18 yet? You know, he's 18 next week.
He looks naughty. He looks...
Yeah. And then in terms of like, if they do want to have a man through the middle, Nicholas Füllkrug, and I'm thinking, people are thinking, who's this guy? Well, this guy scored 10 goals in the Bundesliga so far this season. He's the most informed player in the Bundesliga, most informed German, I'll probably say. But then and then you've got Musiala. Musiala is a little regen version of Thomas Muller, in my opinion. All these things that Thomas Muller was doing 10 years ago is what Musiala is doing right now with additional pace and additional skill. Imagine having that, you know, because back in the day we would say like, oh, Thomas Muller is great, but what is he great at? He's not like the best at this. He's not the best at that, but he's not the best at that. Collectively, he's all good at all together. Well, Musiala is that, but is good at other things. You know, great at ghosting in at the edge of the box, like Frank Lampard-esque when he was a kid. He's got the toes of Gnabry when he gets on the move. You know, he's got Sane type finishing when he wants it as well from the edge of the box. You know, it just seems like he doesn't do anything because he's super quiet, but he just gets into all those pockets. Germany are going to be one to watch out for this year. So
this is a different Germany from what England beat a few years ago in the Euros. It seems like they've moved on.
Yeah, but a different Germany to what we saw at the World Cup in 2018 as well. They didn't make it out the group. You know, so
I mean, the midfield options you named there were scary. I mean,
well,
you
they
could
need to lend a couple to France.
But mate, you could have stopped after Goretzka and Kimmich, but you kept going, and that's a real worry, right? Look,
my only concern is what was it you, Devo, who said about Brazil and their fullback situation. This is my only concern with Germany. If they think of going 3 at the back again, I think that's the only way they get away with playing certain players in certain areas. But maybe they probably just go 4 at the back and then probably stick Kimmich at right back just because of the amount of midfielders that they've got, and they can get away with doing that as well.
I mean, let's look at Spain then, the other team in that group. You know, a heavyweight European outfit. It'd be wrong to say they're not. They literally in the last 15, 20 years won 3 tournaments on the bounce. I've got the Spain squad in front of me, and it feels like there it is. It feels like they've got a squad full of very talented footballers who can all play that one touch, all play that the Spanish way, if you like. I'm just looking at, and look, they could put out a midfield as good as anyone's with the likes of Pedri, Gavi, Rodri, Copa. I'm just wondering, guys, when I look at their forwards, I see a lot of nice technical footballers like Pino and Olmo and Asensio. I don't see where the goals are coming from. I feel like there'll be that team in the tournament that has the most amount of possession of anybody, batters the other team with passing, and then when you get to the end, it'll be, they've drawn 0-0 or they've lost 1-0. Or would that be a fair assessment of where Spain are?
Yeah, I think it's a very strong Spain squad. I do like the squad, but I was thinking the exact same thing as you. I think Ansu Fati, he's good for a few goals. How many minutes will he get? I think Morata will probably start games. He seems to be in favour with so many managers, but we all know what he gives you. And I was thinking this the other day. I was thinking there's so many teams in world football who could probably do with taking strikers from Serbia. So I think if you put Vlahovic in the Spain squad, you put a Mitrovic up there, or even a Luka Jovic on his day, you know, these are guys who could put the ball in the back of the net. So many of these teams in world football. Germany could do with one. Spain could do with one. You know, as good as Gabi Jesus is, Brazil could probably do with a striker who's just going to say, right, you lot feed me, I'm putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Spain squad is. I like that. I like to look at the squad when it was named. I think a lot of people are looking at it thinking there's no big names. The likes of Thiago didn't get in, but I think it's a young squad, and I think there's a lot of talent in that squad. I think if they could play and the occasion doesn't get to them, then things could go right. But I have a feeling it's a bit too early for this Spain squad. I
mean, Gav, when we look at this Spain squad, one of my things, I like watching Spain because I love that type of football. But what I've seen, I saw a stat the other day that for their last sort of, I think it was 15 or 20 internationals, that Spain have made the most changes from game to game to game. And it just feels like this is another squad where I'm going to ask, 1 week it's Busquets, well, one game it's Busquets, then it's Rodri in that position. I remember the Spain team that won everything. You could pick that 11. You knew that 11. Players might come in at the end of games or whatever, but you knew the 11. Is that going to be an issue here that they don't seem to know, that they don't seem to know their best 11?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you go back to those times when they were so good, there was players that couldn't get in. Cesc weren't starting every game. David Silva wasn't starting every game. These are two of the greatest players to ever grace the planet, But then when you have got Xavi and Iniesta in the middle, like, how are you meant to do that? But yeah, this is as Devo alluded to before, and yourself, Sav, that this is a tournament too soon for these guys. If we go back to the Euros run and Pedri and what he was doing. Pedri in that season played 71 games in all competitions, including their time at the Euros. Has he fully recovered from that? All the drama that's been going on with Barcelona over the last couple of years. I know Barcelona are doing really well so far this season, only a point or two off Real Madrid. Last time I looked at the table, I don't really watch a lot of La Liga football anymore, but I know they were right up there. Have they got the mentality to be like, right, okay, this is Germany, we could do them. Oh, this is Japan, we could do them. I don't think they have. And goal scoring wise, lots of forwards, but no real strikers.
Yeah. I think they got away with it, didn't they? I mean, when they won those 3 tournaments in a row, I remember the last tournament they won was, I think, the first two, and please bear in mind,
David Villa, Fernando Torres.
They had David Villa scoring the goals. They had Torres on the bench, and then in the last tournament was the tournament where they didn't play a forward, did they? Do you remember they had Fabregas as like
Cesc.
But they also had Xavi, Busquets, Iniesta as the 3, so you kind of knew they were going to control every game. They had, Pedro. They had David Silva. This team it's good. I like Pedri a lot. I like Gavi a lot. I think Rodri is the best midfielder in the Premier League. Don't shoot me. I think he's brilliant. I don't feel there's the firepower. Now I want to flip that, guys, to the French. So we touched upon them earlier. I'm looking at the French squad now. And the one thing the French squad doesn't have is a problem with putting the ball in the back of the net. When you look at Karim Benzema, I don't know if you guys know, he's quite good. He scores goals, right?
Is that lad who won that individual award thing?
He won that thing. If he's not scoring, you've got this other lad called Mbappe.
He's all right, average at best.
And then behind that, you've got, the 4 behind them, who I put in the next bracket down: Coman, Griezmann, Giroud, and Ousmane Dembele.
And now, because Nkunku is injured, which I'm devastated about, they have now picked Koulibaly, who
he's the last one I was
Devo
going to say.
and I absolutely adore. This is the assist king. He's got 10 assists and 4 goals already so far this season. And he's a constant threat. If he starts, he's a threat.
He won't see much pitch though.
He's not going to, right? But when you look at those forward options, right? We talked about the midfield options in terms of Veretout, Rabiot, Tchouaméni, Guendouzi, Fofana, and Camavinga. I still think then they're very strong at the back. When you look at Pavard, Koundé, Varane, Hernandez, Badiashile, Mendy, Upamecano. Is it that midfield that's going to stop France winning this World Cup, or have they got other issues as well?
I think the midfield isn't the best on paper, but I don't think it necessarily has to be if Deschamps puts his team out the correct way. It could just be the engine room. We saw Liverpool be very, very successful with a midfield that was more industrious than anything. Win the ball, recycle it. Now, Camavinga and Tchouaméni especially are two really, really good midfielders going both ways. Guendouzi has been, he's a completely different player to the Guendouzi we saw at Arsenal. He's become a leader at Marseille. He gets forward. He impacts the game higher up the pitch. But I think Deschamps will go Rabiot. He seems to always pick Rabiot. That's kind of his go-to guy. But I think France's strength will be that defence. I've heard that he's looking to possibly change the system of playing three at the back for this tournament. Right. He's been talking about changing it to three at the back. But it will come down to the individual brilliance of the likes of Mbappe, Benzema, and Giroud is looking for the record, the top French goal scorer. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets it in this tournament.
I wouldn't be surprised if he starts as well, because people try and cuss him out for not getting a goal in the World Cup win, but he was instrumental to a lot of what France were doing on that front line. And I love the guy. I love him. He's handsome as hell as well, which always helps. But this is something that France have done at a few tournaments as well. They play a front three with two strikers and a wide man. Have you noticed that? You know, they did it a few years ago with Valbuena. They did it with Payet. It's weird. It's weird how it works, but it seems to work for them. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Giroud and being a front three, maybe of Giroud, Mbappe, and Benzema. I can see that happening.
Yeah. And the group guys, Australia, Denmark, who a lot of people put in as their dark horses, Tunisia. If France don't get out this group, I'm not being cruel, but they should, right? They should really.
Oh yeah. They may go through as second. They may not go through the top of the group. Denmark are a bogey side for France. Denmark were, I think they beat them in the Nations League twice. Denmark beat them in the last World Cup. Didn't they beat them in the Euros as well? So Denmark seemed to have France's number. So it wouldn't surprise me if Denmark top this group. And I think Denmark I think they won 9 of their qualifiers. They only conceded like 2 or 3 goals in their whole qualifying campaign as well. They were real top form.
Denmark are a good side. This is a little bit different. This time. I think France know what they're doing in the World Cup there.
We'll talk about France and Serbia in a little bit. I mean, just a yes or no before we move on to the Dutch. Can anyone make an argument for France going all the way, retaining the World Cup, or is it too much of an ask with that midfield?
As I said, depends on the individuals. If Benzema and Mbappe are on form, if they can keep goals out the other end, the likes of obviously Saliba, who has been immense this season. If they can keep the ball out the net and give Mbappe and Benzema a chance, then of course they can get all the way. Those players there can carry any team.
Okay. Let's talk about the Dutch then. I mean, the Dutch have threatened to do bits for years and years. They're like England in a way. They threatened to do bits for years and years and years. Always got this crop of immensely talented young players, and it never quite comes to fruition. I'm looking at their squad now. The standouts would be people like Virgil van Dijk, Jurrien Timber, Frankie de Jong, Koopmeiners, and then I look at the rest of them. I don't see any superstars, but I see a lot of good players. People like Gakpo, people like Depay and de Jong and Simmons.
Your old boys there in the squad. Vincent Janssen's made it.
It's because of things like that I look at it and think, have they got enough? I feel like France. This Netherlands team has got quarterfinals written all over it, no more. They're in a group with, bear with me 1 second, Netherlands are in a group with Qatar, obviously the host, Ecuador and Senegal. So I would fancy them to go through, but I also fancy the first time they come up against a top team, I think they'd go out. Am I being harsh on them?
No.
That's the exact same thing I was thinking. Exact same thinking.
I'm with you as well. I was looking at that Netherlands side. They're going to go 3 at the back straight away, and that automatically just makes me want to shut down. You know, they looked okay at times in the Euros with this 3 at the back. This time out, there's going to be De Ligt, it's going to be Van Dijk. You can't drop either of those two, and De Vrij is awesome. Daley Blind is the brains on the pitch. So I could see De Vrij maybe missing out, and
Nathan Ake will get a game.
Nathan Ake, we're looking at left back ahead of Malacia, left wing back, and then at right wing back they've got Denzel Dumfries, who was unreal at the Euros, but they've also got Jeremy Frimpong, who's a right wing back, who most recently for Leverkusen has been playing right wing and scoring as well. So if you look at it that way, and the midfield, they've got some talent in the midfield. Coop de Myers, as you mentioned, De Roon, you know, he's been brilliant over the last couple of seasons. You can't not play Frankie de Jong. But yeah, then I don't know. I can see him going 3 at the back and just inviting pressure though. It's not, even though they've got a lot of players, they've got a lot of talent, it's not like the total football that we've seen over the years. And even the World Cup '98 squad, you know, the way that they had things moving, which got to a third, fourth place playoff, the one that got to the final in 2010. You know, it's not the same crop of players that are able to do that, and they'll get out the group. I think they'll get out the group with relative ease. But yeah, if they were to come second and face a potential England in the next round, it's like, you know.
Just quickly, just before I bring you in, Devo, big up to Phil P. Love my man, Phil P. Hope you're well. He said, evening, gents. Great conversation and top knowledge. You've actually got me interested in the World Cup every time I think I'm out. Listen, with no Premier League for like 6 weeks, we've got to get involved, right? We've all got to get, well, with no top leagues of football, we've got to get involved. Okay, guys, I want to move to a couple of countries that are being considered as dark horses. Now, again, we talked about this earlier in the show. What does that actually mean? When I say dark horse, I just mean, if they get to the semis, they would have blown my mind, that type of thing. The first one I want to talk about is I don't know if it's harsh to call them dark horses, but
England. Denmark. Oh, sorry.
Who did you say?
Yeah.
What did you say?
He said England. England. Yeah.
We've done England. I mean, look. When I look at the Denmark squad, I mean, look. We all know. I feel like this is a squad with absolutely no what I would call superstars, but loads of solid, experienced footballers throughout. When you look at Kasper Schmeichel in goal, then you've got players like Kjær, Anderson, Marley, Christensen, players like Delaney, Eriksson, Højbjerg, Norgard, Poulsen,
Damsgaard,
Lindstrom, Skoff, Dolberg, Damsgaard. I mean, they've got some really good, exciting players. Have they got enough, or is this another squad that doesn't quite have that killer instinct at the top end? They've got good forwards, but have they got a guy that's going to get 7 or 8, win the Golden Boot, and Denmark win a tournament?
I think that's the one thing they're missing for me. Again, I keep going back to it. A Mitrovic in this Denmark squad they'd complete the puzzle. I do believe that they're missing an out-and-out goal scorer, but I do think they have enough about them. They're organised. They're very hard to break down. They did score a lot of goals in qualifying, to be fair. I think they'll create a lot of chances with the likes of Eriksson, Damsgaard, Skov, Lindstrom. I think there's a lot of players in there that can create chances for you. It's just, will you get, Braithwaite, Poulsen, these guys are industrious forwards who will just be a nightmare for defenders, pull people out of position. But will they stick the ball in the back of the net? If you get one chance in 90 minutes, I don't think Poulsen or Braithwaite are the guys that I'm going to want them to fall to. Jonas Wind is a good striker, but he's not really done it in the Bundesliga. So that's the only thing that I think is slight weakness for them. But I fancy Denmark to top the group. Honestly, I do. It wouldn't surprise me if they got top the group above France. Yeah.
I mean, Gav, I mean, look, Denmark, it's a strange one. I want to call them dark horses. We've seen them be the ultimate dark horse by winning Euro 92, which I was very much of age. You probably weren't to remember.
No, I was 94 was my first memory of a major tournament. 96, obviously, being in England. 98 was the one I could probably tell you every single game.
Just
I've watched it back. I've watched it back, you know, because I like doing things like that. But you got to look at the talent that they had back then. They had the Laudrup brothers, you know, they had Jon Jensen, they had
Peter Schmeichel.
Peter Schmeichel, like doing bits. That's what got him his move, really, wasn't it? Really and truly. But I like this Denmark side, I really do. And you got to remember, you know, they took England pretty much all the way.
Yeah, they did. They
really should have won that game.
I reckon they really should have. It was quite mad, and I think everyone just expected. I think everyone just expects Denmark to be crap.
Yeah, I think it's because I think it's because you know, as I said, they've got good players, but they never seem to have. I mean, obviously back in '92 when they had the Laudrup brothers, for example, but since then. Have they had that player where you go, oh my God, that is a world class? And I'm not talking about children, you know, the youngsters of today's version of world class is someone that scores 5 goals in a year. I mean, have they got that world class poster boy like how Norway do with Haaland, Brazil?
Ericsson was the closest, wasn't he? Ericsson was the closest they got.
Damsgaard's got the opportunity, but he's not really played much since he's moved over, has he? It's upset. I know it's upset Devo hard, you know, because I know how.
I'm a big fan of Damsgaard. I think he's great.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I love him, but like, it's just annoying that the system that they're playing at the moment at Brentford, like, where's he going to go in? Where's he going to start? It's difficult. I love Robert Scoe. Big fan of his. He was signed as a right wing back, and now playing a left-sided forward. As Devo said, and as you've alluded to as well, they haven't got an out-and-out striker who is going to be guaranteed to bag. I do like Braithwaite in a Denmark shirt. He does seem to have a different way of playing when he's doing that. He
does.
And Yusuf Poulsen probably just be that guy what we expected Bobby Firmino would have done if he'd went to the World Cup, because he's a defensive forward, if that makes sense. You know, he's not going to lead the line, but you need him up front to come deep, win the ball, spread it to your wide men, and then get goals that way. So I don't know. Goals wise, I know that they did score quite a few in qualifying for it, but you've only got 3 games to prove yourself here, and I don't know if they've got enough goals.
Do you fancy, after what happened to Ericsson at the last tournament, and you know, thankfully he's back to full health, but do you think we might just see a bit of a Christian Eriksen masterclass in this tournament? You know, this is a guy now who's got the second wind, right? This is a guy who has cheated death by all intents and purposes, has come back with that kind of, there's no pressure on him now. You know, he said many times before, everything before was stressful and pressured. Now it's, I'm a lucky guy. I'm here to play football. He's played some great stuff for Man U this year. Could this be a tournament where we see him making team of the year and really pulling?
I would love to see that. I would love to see that. You know, I think that'd be brilliant for him personally. Even though he did play for Spurs, I've always liked Christian Eriksen. I think he's a brilliant footballer. I think he was possibly underrated for much of his time at Spurs for just how good and just how consistent he was. And I think it would be great for him on the world stage to just show, look, this is who I am. You know, forget all that stuff that happened before. Don't pity me or anything like that.
Yeah.
I belong to be on this stage. This is who I am. This is how good I am. I think I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? And what they do have a good midfield dynamic, Denmark, Gav. Whenever I watch them play, they tend to go with that three of Delaney, Højbjerg, and then Ericsson pulling strings.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because you got the defensive guys going to just chop man in Højbjerg, who I love. I've always loved him. I've always had a lot of time for him. Delaney can do that, but he can also move further forward. We saw him do it for Dortmund. We've seen him do it over the years. And then Eriksen, as you said, he can play that deep line playmaker. He can play man in behind. It's a really good dynamic, as you said. It's like how Leicester were, when they were doing quite well with the 6-8-10, if you want to call it that, at the Ndidi, Tielemans, and Maddison. Like that's the punchy. They can all move forward together. They can all defend together. They can look out wide for the right men. There's maybe Eriksen can do what Poulsen would potentially do to allow for, or Damsgaard can play wide. They've still got defenders that
Lindstrom
bomb up and down. They've got Lindstrom, they've got Marler. Marler, like he can bomb at that wing. So if they do play, once again, another team. This is a team actually. If they do play three at the back, I wouldn't be offended by them for the talent that they've got in those positions. I feel like a three at the back for them works, unlike a three at the back for England, for argument's sake.
Yeah. I agree. Look, when you've got out and out wing backs like Meili, it helps, doesn't it?
So good. So good.
Before we go to Serbia, who I really enjoy watching, by the way, I want to talk about a South American underdog. It would be wrong of me not to bring up the South American underdog, Uruguay. Now, Uruguay is a really interesting team because I feel like they've got a lot of household names, should we say. And I know that doesn't always automatically mean you're winning things, but when you look at the likes of, I know the first thing you're going to say, when you look at the likes of Cavani, Luis Suarez, Lucas Torreira, Diego Godin, Jimenez, household names, top players that have been there, seen it, done it, won it. Is it just that those players are on the wrong side of 30 now for them to have as much impact as Uruguay would like? Or are we going to see Gav's favourite striker of all time, Darwin Núñez, set the world alight? What do you make of them? They've got players like Mateus Vina as well. They've got Sosa. They've got Oliveira. They've got some good players there. But is that enough, or are they just a flash in the pan?
I think this is the last hurrah for a lot of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Their time was 2010, and they weren't able to go over the line. I loved that. I hated what happened to Ghana, but I sort of love what Suarez done, what he did in that at the same time, because he did it for his country.
Everyone would do it. Everyone would do it.
Anyone who says they wouldn't do it is an absolute liar. It just would have been good to see an African nation go that little bit further, especially how good that Ghana team were. Them or Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, either of those have gone that little bit further would have been brilliant for the African nation. But I just think, these are one of these teams that they're a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to liken all these nations into Premier League style clubs, these are a mid-table team that have got the experience, probably won't quite get into Europe, but they'll have some really good games, and then some ones that make you think, oh, I don't know about that. And that's how I feel about Uruguay right now.
They've got Bentancur as well.
Bentancur. I like Bentancur. Bentancur's great. Torreira, great. What are they going to do in this competition? Are they going to play like a 4-2-3-1? If they do, is it going to be Torreira and Bentancur that do that holding and chopping work? They've both got energy. They both go.
They're going to start with two up front.
Yeah.
They'll start with two up top.
They got Valverde as well.
Nice. Bentancur. Bentancur's recently found himself in the goals quite a lot recently as well, just at the right time. I think he's one of those players actually. Savva was talking about it at the beginning of the show and said about is the timing right for certain players, and I mentioned about players. Some might not be up for it. Some might well be. Bentancur is well up for this World Cup, and he is ready because he's just. I think he's a great player. Last season he was okay. This season, he started off quite well, more defence-minded. But as the season's gone on, he's been like, give me the frigging ball and let me do something. And I've loved.
Can I tell you the problem?
season.
Not the problem, so that's the wrong word. Can I tell you the thing about Bentancur for me? And this is coming from a Spurs fan. He's one of those players you can see that he's got it all. You can see that it's there. For me, what I need to see for me to elevate him from, I think he's a good player. You know me. I don't just. I saw some Spurs channels after the weekend putting out polls. Is Bentancur world class? Which I just think are ridiculous. But I think Bentancur for me stands out against mediocre teams. No offense to them, but he stands out against the Southamptons, the Leeds, the Bournemouths. What I need to see is I need to see him do it against an Arsenal. I need to see him against the Chelsea and Man United. Get a game in midfield, and you go, God, you were good today. That is what I think I've not seen from him. Now, is that I don't want to go into the Premier League stuff, but can he do that for Uruguay? That will be a really good test for him, I think.
I think they've got, because obviously Valverde as well. It depends what kind of system they're going to play with these midfielders. I think there's a couple of good. To go back to your original point, I think this is the last hurrah for a lot of these players, and I think Suarez is back home playing in Uruguay. Cavani's he's coming into this injured. He's gone to Valencia. He scored a few goals at Valencia, but he's not at the top of his powers. Nunez is scoring goals for fun in the Premier League. I know we've had this discussion before. But then you look at the likes of Martin Caceres, who's been around for God knows how long. Fernando Muslera in goal, been around for God knows how long. A lot of these are playing. I
just signed Muslera on FMO8. Do you know what I mean? He's been around for a long time.
Godin's been around for donkey's years.
Godin,
Argentina. But they've got some really good young players as well. But they've got some really young players as well. Fernando Torres, who's got quite a bit of interest, been linked with Arsenal, Orlando City. There's high hopes for him. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing him in the tournament. I hope he gets some minutes to see what he's actually about. And Nicolas de la Cruz at River, he's a very good player. Araujo, of course.
I mean, just to wrap up because wrap up on Serbia, wrap up on Uruguay before we go to Serbia, then Portugal. I just want to look at their group that they're in Uruguay. A very difficult group, I think. When you look at Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea, it's not. I don't think that's a straightforward group for anyone in that group. If I'm brutally honest, I feel that's going to be a very tight group.
I think that's a tough group. I think everyone would look at Portugal as the favourites. Would not surprise me if Uruguay picked them. I think Ghana have got some good players in their squad. I think it's a shame that Hudson-Odoi and Eddie Nketiah turned them down. I think they could have really done with those two players in the squad. But Ghana do have some really good players in their squad. I think they look a very good unit. The only thing that possibly is a goalkeeper. I think there's no real top goalkeeper in Ghana's ranks. I think Uruguay will fancy themselves in this, not just in this group, but to go deep into this tournament as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if they got to around the quarterfinals.
Okay.
I just think Group H. You mentioned Portugal. Oh, are we going to Portugal now?
We're going to Serbia. Do you want to go to Portugal now?
Well, it's just because, it's episode 1 of 2 of the Ronaldo thing. We've seen how much going on around social media around Cristiano Ronaldo. I know some outlets are making it look a lot worse than it is. Some are, saying that it's completely fine. Some are saying it's terrible. But all this going on right now is not looking good for Portugal. And I think even though their squad is star-studded, this has Belgium vibes written all over me, where the players are great. Can they put it all together? Do they know their best 11? Does Ronaldo have to play? If Ronaldo plays, who's going to be taking the set piece? Is he doing anything? Because I think Bruno Fernandes over the last couple of weeks I think he's ready for the World Cup as well. I think he's stepped up quite a bit in the Premier League. When Man United have, shown a bit of form, and I think there's been a couple of games where had the captain's armband as well, and I think he's has used that to his advantage. I just think with the other teams that are there, if Uruguay says their last hurrah, I haven't written them off. They could easily win that group. Ghana can win this group. South Korea, another team that, just like Japan, people were like, oh, Japan, South Korea, these are rubbish. Because they're probably thinking of how they were in the mid to late 90s. Well, since then, regardless of what people say about corruption, South Korea still came fourth in a World Cup. But Japan have been getting through the group stages of late. Both teams have got some players that might not be on the radar, and some have got ones that are out there playing for massive clubs. So South Korea are another team that people should be looking out for right now.
I mean, let's look before we go to we'll go to Serbia last. Then before we go there, let's stay with Portugal. I mean, the squad is star-studded, like you said. I mean, just when you look at Andre Silva, Leao, Ronaldo, Felix, Vitinha, Bernardo Silva, João Mario, Bruno Fernandes, Neves, Nunes, Paulinho, Pereira, Diaz, Silva, Cancelo. Sarr. This is a great
goalkeepers, the top goalkeepers as well. All three goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Diogo Costa at Porto is an amazing goalkeeper. My question is just,
brilliant goalkeeper. We've seen him already. Jose Sarr, what a great beard.
Off the back of what Gav was talking about, I know this whole Ronaldo situation in the last week has brought up a lot of what he's done to his teammates at Man United, and has he disrespected Man United? But from an international standpoint, Devo, was this the right timing? Just about to go to a World Cup. Now every question in every press conference, it doesn't matter if he's at the World Cup or not, is going to be about what he's just done. He's got Man United teammates in the dressing room for Portugal. Has this just been, for me? I've made no two ways about this. For me, I just think this was awful timing, very selfish, and not really thinking about his club for the second half of the season, or for his country going into the World Cup. Could this have a negative effect on them, or galvanise them and have a positive effect?
I think it will galvanise them. I think that it takes a lot of attention off of them and their expectations. Everything's going to be about Ronaldo, so these guys can just go and play football. No one's going to be looking at them, asking them questions of, can you win it? Can you do this? You've got such a good squad. Now it's just Ronaldo. He's taken all the flack. All the attention's gone to him. They can just play their game. I think Portugal got a very strong squad, possibly man for man, the strongest squad in the whole competition.
Really?
I think for every position, I don't see one position on that pitch where you think that's a bit weak.
I'm trying to look.
I think every single position is stacked. There's no position on that.
Hang on. Okay, let me try and find one for balance. Central defence.
Ruben Diaz.
Yeah, hang on. Let me finish my question. Right, central defence. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Look at this. It turns into a dart pro and gets all laggy. They've got Ruben Diaz, which is great. But is there enough there in central defence other than Diaz? Because I'm looking Cancelo as a fullback, Dalot's a fullback, Nuno Mendes is a fullback, and then their three central defenders are Pepe, Silva, and Diaz, right? Because I think Rafael Guerrero of Dortmund's a fullback as well, right?
Yeah, wing back.
Pereira. So Danilo Pereira is the fourth centre back. He's played centre back for PSG a few times last season. More of a central midfielder by trade, but he can play at centre back.
Well, that's what I mean. So is that their weakness then at centre half? Is Pepe going to play?
I'd say Pepe probably will play. He's still performing at a high level for Porto in the Champions League.
He's 107.
He is 107, but we spoke about Dani Alves and how if he can still do it. Thiago Silva's 36 or 37. So I think Pepe has still got quite a lot to give, but Antonio Silva's having a great season with Benfica. I think if he's given a chance, he will prove that he's worth a starting lineup. I think man for man, this squad is probably the strongest for me. It's something always about Portugal. Yeah, I think it is. I don't think in terms of the depth, I don't think there's any area where you think, right, if that player's not playing, if Bernardo Silva doesn't play, who's going to come in for him? the team.
Yeah.
You know, you've
This
got
is
these
where
players
it can go wrong.
who are solid. I think the issue with them is almost the same issue that England have: is will the manager put them in a system that is too pragmatic for the players that they have? Will they attack teams, or will they be slow in their build up? I think if they just take the brakes off, they can really do damage. But will they do that?
I mean, this is the thing I'm looking at, Gav. I mean, sometimes squads can have too many good players. So, like, if I was looking at their midfield areas, assuming they play a 2, I don't know. You know, managers can chop and change, but when you look at the fact that they can play, you know, Ruben Neves, William Carvalho, Mathieu Nunes, Paulinho, you know, Bernardo Silva can play centrally as well. It's a lot of, how do you get them all in? How do you get them all happy? And is there going to be too much, as always, of pandering to Cristiano Ronaldo rather than the good of the team?
This is where I think they're gonna flop, because
I agree.
I do not disagree with Devo. They are stacked in every single position. Doesn't matter what formation you play. You could play 3 at the back. You could play 4 at the back. You could play 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. You know, you could play whatever formation you want, and they have got a man for every single area. You can even play 3 goalkeepers if you want to. But I am just concerned that there is too much going on there. They won't know what to do in certain situations. I think, like, when they come across Ghana, I think Ghana will, you know, they'll probably be a bit more pragmatic than what they would expect. So how do they break them down? Uruguay might play more the style that they have. So then I'll see that being a 3-2. But which way is that 3-2 going to go? Korea said, like, you don't know what Korea are able to do. I think it. I don't see Portugal doing like lighting up trees or anything. And if they come second in their group, looks like they could have Brazil. That's game over. If they come top of their group, they could have Switzerland or Serbia or even Cameroon. You know, it's not. I don't. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame for them. I think that the layout of the groups doesn't favour them in terms of getting too far.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a real tough one. Look, we've got 10 minutes left. I want to go to Serbia for a few minutes, and then I want to talk about the Golden Ball, Golden Boot, Golden Ball, whatever it's called these days. And they change it so much. Look, Serbia are a team that a lot of people seem very impressed with. I'm going to read out a selection of their players. Up front, they've got Dusan Vlahovic, Mitrovic, Lazovic, and Jovic. They've then got players like Milenkovic, Savic, Djuric, and Lukic in midfield. And they've then got players like Filip Kostic, Dusan Tadic, Milenkovic, Vijkovic, if I'm saying that right. I mean, they've got some good players, guys. They've got scary goals in their team. You know, people like Milenkovic, Savic, goals and strength in midfield. Filip Kostic from a creativity point of view, wide. Can they go and do some bits in this tournament?
Yes,
it's a tough one. They can, on paper, they can. And as I said several times in the show, for the 2 strikers they've got, Vlahovic and Mitrovic, with the likes of Tadic and Kostic just swinging balls in from and you know, putting the ball on the plate for them, they can score goals. And they are solid defensively. They're a very organised side, but they're in the wrong group. There's a very good chance they don't get out. If they do get out of the group, they could trouble a lot of teams. But Switzerland, I will always back Switzerland to get out of the group, no matter who's in the group with them. That's just who they are. So yeah, it's a tough one for Serbia. I do hope that they can get through, because I do really like Serbia. I think they've got some really good players. But yeah, I struggle to predict this group. Really.
It's a tough one. It's a good group. I mean, certainly, Gav. I mean, when you look at, I mean, you know, we know about Vlahovic, we know about Mitrovic. The standout player there for me through all of that is Milenkovic Savic, plays for Lazio. I think he's the complete midfielder. He scores a bundle, he assists a bundle. He's big, strong, powerful, good technique, good pass for the ball, good tackler. is this the sort of tournament that gets a player like him a big move? I'm not saying Lazio are a small club, but
it's been linked with a move every season for the last 6 or 7 years. There must be a reason why. He's got every he ticks every single box as you mentioned, but why aren't people buying him? I don't think it's consistent enough. That's the problem. But my concern is this is a Serbia team that lost to Scotland only not too long ago to fail to qualify. That concerns me.
Yeah.
Have they got the mental strength to go and put themselves about? If they were to get a result against Brazil, then off we go. Let's go off to the hills. If they don't, I can't see them getting a result against Switzerland. I really don't. The other one in the group is Cameroon. They might be able to trouble Cameroon, but Cameroon, they're going to be up for it as well. It's a shame. Portugal and Serbia are both in the wrong group in this competition. If they want to go places, one of those two teams in England's group, for argument's sake, let me try the groups up again. So love them. One of those in England's group. Love those in Qatar's group. Either of those two teams, that is. And then both of them can probably go off and run away a little bit. But it's tough. It's tough for them.
Okay, let's last bit. We've got 5 minutes before Gav needs to.
Can I just say one team? Sorry, that we did not mention. Croatia,
Belgium, and Croatia. We haven't spoken about either.
No, Belgium. All of them are 244. They ain't doing anything. Croatia.
Yeah, I didn't choose Belgium and Croatia just because I felt like Croatia are kind of a team. I felt they still got some good players, but again, aging for me. I don't personally see them doing a lot. And Belgium, again, I think at the back I feel like they're still. I don't know the squad, but are they still relying on Vertonghen and
Alderweireld, Vertonghen, yeah, Witsel. All of these players have over 120 caps, and they're still very strong.
Yeah, but look,
I fancy Croatia to do well.
Croatia will always do well, I think, because they've got that little magician in midfield controlling games for them. Belgium, for me, have just underachieved so much with the players they've had.
Croatia are going to do what they did 20 years ago. They did so well against France in 2018 and in 1998. They're going to drop in the first round. They're going to buy up.
Well, I mean, look, they're both in the same group, aren't they? With Canada and Morocco. So they both fancy themselves to go through, I would think. Yeah. But again, there's always a surprise in the World Cup. We'll see. I don't fancy them. I think both those two teams have got a lot of older players, and I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not an expert, but off the top of my head, I can't think of either of those two squads having any real stars coming through. I mean, you might tell me I'm wrong, but I just don't feel like I know of any off the top of my head. Guys, I want to talk. Look, 4 minutes before we end the show. The Golden Boot. Always so difficult to predict a Golden Boot because obviously it all depends on which teams go far, injuries, all that type of stuff. You're going to have the normal names up there: Kane, Neymar, Mbappe, Benzema, Messi, Lautaro Martinez. Who are you going for? Is there going to be a shock here? Is there going to be someone outside of those 6 or 7 big names that I've mentioned? What do you think?
I could see like a Musiala, if he starts each game, I could see him being a threat, get a couple of goals, get himself up to like 5. You know, you never know. If Serbia do turn it on, then yeah, we're looking at probably go Mitro because he'll take the pens more as well. And for Switzerland, Seferovic, I don't think he's a great striker, but he seems to get himself in the right places at the right times, doesn't he? Me too. I think he's crap, but he bags, and it does my head in that he does. So yeah, they're my sort of like outside.
He's like Braithwaite.
Messi
doesn't ever do a lot, but somehow finds this form for his country. So
I'm going Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi. or Giroud. No, it won't be Giroud. But Lionel Messi, I think, will get it.
Messi gets a hat trick
Argentina
versus Saudi Arabia. Bam.
Messi gets the golden boot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it down, guys, as Messi as well. I think the wonderful thing, and if we're going to end the show talking about this magician, the wonderful thing about Lionel Messi is he's one of those. He could go to this tournament and score 7 or 8 goals, or he could go to this tournament, only grab a couple, but get 7 or 8 assists. It all depends what he wants to do on any given day. Does he want to go and be in around that 18-yard box? Does he want to play central midfield and dictate the game? It just feels, to bring this full circle where we started an hour and a half ago, it just feels something's in the air with this, doesn't it? It feels like this is his time. He won, was it not the last World Cup, it was the World Cup before, wasn't it? When he won the Golden Ball, Player of the Tournament.
Player of the tournament 2014, didn't he?
Shouldn't have, but he did.
No, of course. But it just feels now, I don't know, I don't know, something feels right about him in this tournament. Whether he gets the volume of goals, I don't know. I feel like he'll get a bundle of assists, but like you said, you wouldn't put him past a hat-trick against, do you say Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia,
yeah. Mexico, Poland, do they have the defenders that can keep him out? Wouldn't it be fitting? Argentina to win the World Cup, Messi to win the Golden Ball. After that, wouldn't you retire?
Yeah, I'll probably quit watching football after that. There's football's completed, isn't it?
Yeah. If I was
I'll wait to the end of the season. If Arsenal win the league as well, then that's it. I'm done. Never watching football ever again.
Guys,
nothing will top that.
Just really quickly, from an English perspective, Harry Kane always scores goals. It feels like if he doesn't, not many people do for England. Are we fancying Harry Kane? Are England going to be creative enough to get him the goals?
No,
how many penalties can he win?
And a couple of free kicks. In fact,
how many penalties can he win?
Yeah, how many? And because even from corners, like this is one thing going forwards that I do like Maguire for. He's good for a header. He's good for like my bets that I'm putting on are Maguire shot on target in each game because he goes up the corners, he gets his big head on the end of stuff on a regular basis. Like then after it was slashing it to like 7-4. The Stones can do the same as well. So they are a threat from set pieces are England, and Kane will be involved in that. So
okay, last question. Last question. And everyone in the chat, please put your answers in here. Please just type in 2 words. One is going to be the name of the country you think is going to win it, and the second is going to be the person who gets the golden boot. Lads, who's going to win it then? Give it to me. You can pick one team and one outsider. Who's winning it, Gav?
Who's going to win the World Cup? I'm going Brazil. I really am. Can't see past them. And who do I think will go really far and do well? Was that the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Switzerland. I think they'll get to at least the quarters.
Okay, so you're going for Switzerland to do well, Brazil to win it, and golden boot was
golden boot. I like an outside bet. I'm going Musiala.
Okay. Devo, World Cup winners.
Argentina, golden boot, Lionel Messi, and my outsiders. I'm going to go Croatia.
You're going Croatia over Denmark?
I'm going Croatia. I don't see Denmark as a dark horse in that group. Okay. I see Croatia as more of a dark horse. I think Denmark, more people would expect things from.
Okay. I'm going to go with Argentina, Messi, and I'm going to go with this is a real punt because they're in a tough group. I'm going to go with Serbia. I just feel they've got so many goals in that team. And they're 2 big buggers as well up top, aren't they?
They are, aren't they?
Lots of. If I was them, I'd just go old school 4-4-2 and whip loads of balls into the box at both of them.
You know it.
I'm down for it. I'm all for it. I'm ready for it. I'm actually gassed for the World Cup now talking about this all day. I've not been excited at all.
Mate, I don't want to see any tiki-taka. I don't want to see any sitting back. Just get the ball to the wingers. Whip it in, let those two go and barge everyone about. Guys, listen, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. You two have got a lot of knowledge of football, not ball. And it really does show. you do realise that we will all be wrong with our predictions just because that's the way it is. And we'll maybe I'll say we're going to have more shows in the next month, and we'll know who was right. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Some really good, sensible conversations, lots of good knowledge from people, and I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight. So much love, everyone. Please like and subscribe to Mad Sports Network. Please like and subscribe Savva Talks Football, and we'll see you all on the flip side. Thank you very much. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Peace.